Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the 9th episode of That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. My name is Kelly, and as always, my co-host is James. How's it going, dude? What's up?
It's been a crazy week. I'm done with 2020.
Well, you got like a couple more months to go. You're getting there, though. Got like 8 weeks. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, about 8 weeks. And it's
All right,
over.
then. Promise?
You can do it. You can do it, little James. You can make it.
Right on.
It has been a crazy week, though, hasn't it?
It has, man. Shit.
Tensions are high.
Yeah.
It's and all you can say is, that's some crazy shit.
It is some crazy shit. And it's funny, Kev, that so many people have so much going on. You know, like I have friends who have stuff going on, and then they have friends that have stuff going on. And it's just not little stuff, you know. It's like, you know, major health issues or whatever, man. It's just been crazy.
Yeah, it can seem like a lot, right? And then you've got the stress of the election, right? And not just the stress of the election, just the stress of waiting for the results. And I actually had read an article where they say that election fatigue is a real thing, right? Yeah. So, and just, you know, it's like, come on. And I don't go on social media a lot, so I didn't partake in like I'm sure there were thousands of memes and just all types of. I did see a lot with the count from Sesame Street, right?
Oh,
as far as like counting and stuff. I did see some of those when I
the lightning, huh?
Right, I did see some of those, but for the most part, as of today, the time that we're making this recording, the election has been called.
Correct.
And the winner at this time, I want to preface this, when we're making this recording, has been Joe Biden. So...
Oh, sorry. We're not political.
We're not political, but we got to, it's some crazy shit. The whole thing, it's not even over. So...
No. I have a feeling it's going to go on for a little bit longer.
It's not even over. So, and it's crazy shit because it's unprecedented, but we're not going to dwell on it. I just wanted to, it's just been a crazy week.
Serious.
That's all. So, we are on episode 9 of That's Some Crazy Shit, and we are doing crop circles and crazy shit that falls out of the sky. And so James, as always, like always, if you are listening to us for the first time, thank you. Thank you. Right. Thank you for taking time to listen to us. If you've been listening to us all along, or, you've listened to us more than once, thank you. We really do appreciate you, listening to us, because there are a bunch of podcasts out there. You could listen to a lot of people and you just taking the time to listen to me and James, and we appreciate it. So thank you very much.
It is cool. I appreciate the time. An hour out of your life is that, it's a long time when things are going crazy.
Yeah. So thank you. And so James, tell everybody, kind of, why we do the podcast and what our mission, objective, what we're over here trying to do.
All right, Kelly. So the objective of our podcast is to bring awareness to some off your norm topics. So, the paranormal, metaphysical, okay? Things that, let's be honest, people don't talk about this stuff at work, because people are going to think you're crazy. And when I say that, we're not saying that the things that happen are crazy insane, or the people that these things happen to are crazy insane. I think it's crazy that these things are happening to these people and people still refuse to believe that it's happening. That's the crazy thing to me.
I think there is a lot of crazy shit in the world. Paranormal, yeah. And then, there's a lot of stuff that's crazy shit that is not paranormal.
Right. Everyday stuff is crazy.
Everyday stuff is crazy shit too. And so when we were trying to come up with what the podcast should be named, it was just, that's some crazy shit.
I know It's funny because when we're having our conversations, we would be like, God, that's some crazy shit.
It is.
So it works. And then also, I think we want to bring a platform for these people who do have these experiences to be able to come forward and share their stories and not be worried about being ridiculed. Not be worried about having people think, that they're insane, because we understand these things are happening, and you don't go to work, you don't go to work and say, God, I was abducted last night, because then you probably wouldn't have a job very long.
Probably not.
So, we want to provide that platform too for these people and their stories, So if our listeners want to come forward and share a story, or if they want to email us a story and, we can read it and share it online or on air, please feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But by no means are we experts. As always, we never claim to be. We like to bring you some theory or written information or a guest or somebody who's had an experience, somebody who wants to talk about it. So we want to have a discussion. We want to keep it open. We want to keep things positive. And so you can always get to us on social media. You can get to us on, first of all, email, right? So we have a Gmail account. That's some crazy shit podcast at gmail.com. All one word, no apostrophes or anything like that. That's some crazy shit podcast at Gmail. Or you can get us on Twitter, and that's at that's some crazy shit. And then there's Instagram at that's _ some crazy shit. Again, no apostrophes. So the @ that's _ some crazy shit. And then Facebook is K&J's podcast. And then we're also on YouTube. And YouTube, the channel is That's Some Crazy Shit. So we have all these ways of social media to communicate. So if you are interested in coming on, you want to be a guest, you want to share your story, you want to give us some ideas, you want to just tell us how you think that we're doing. There's all different types of ways that you can get at us. So we do ask that, like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram. I don't know. Do you like on Twitter? I don't tweet a lot. I'm not a Twitter expert.
Yeah, I don't tweet either.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. But yeah, you can follow our YouTube channel. I think when I last checked, we had like six subscribers, which I think is really cool because...
And I'm still not one.
And so we are on YouTube as well. So we are going to get right to it. Crop Circles is brought to you by Chef Bella B, LLC, offering personal and private chef services, spices, and sauces. You can reach her on her website, which is chefbellabkitchen.com. She's also on Instagram at Chef Bella B. Excuse me. You can, I know that she's going to start to offer sauces for the holidays, so go check her out. And James, it is all you. I am interested to hear about Crop Circles.
All right, so we talk about these paranormal things that are going on, crop circles being one. The first report of a crop circle that I could find comes from England, and it was actually called the Devil's Mowing.
Well, okay, wait. Before you go there, what exactly is it? What classifies as a crop circle? Do you have like a definition of what a crop circle is?
Okay, so Wikipedia's definition of a crop circle is a pattern created by flattening a crop, usually a cereal crop. So wheat, barley, hops, that type of thing.
Okay.
You don't find usually crop circles like in corn or fields like that. So that's the definition.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's according to Wikipedia. All right. So the first report of a crop circle actually comes from a wood carving pressing. So they in 1676 they printed this pamphlet that recounts the mowing devil, they called it, and it was a pattern that was cut into a field, and so hence that was the first report of a crop circle. So they thought that the devil was out there harvesting or reaping the wheat for the farmer. So we go back in past, who probably was tortured and had to admit to being in with the devil and killed.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, time out. Okay, wait a second. Let me process. So when was this?
This was in 1678.
So in 1678, there was a report of a crop circle in a crop in England, you said, right?
Correct.
And they thought it was the devil mowing, or that's what they called it?
That was the belief, and that's what they called it.
And so
they believed, they didn't believe in, or they didn't report that there were UFOs or anything like that. They just said it was, the conclusion they came to must have been the devil.
Huh.
Remember, that's right in that dark ages, 1400 to 1700.
So did they say like anything else about the crop circle? Just that the devil mowing? That's the devil mowing, huh?
Yeah, that's just him out there doing his thing.
Okay.
So then in 1686, British naturalist named Robert Plot, he recorded seeing rings or arcs of mushrooms. Okay. So those aren't really your classic crop circles, but that was the next reported, circle phenomenon that I came across.
Huh. Rings of mushrooms or arcs?
Yeah, I can't. That's what they say, arcs, and I don't understand. And I think of an arc as a arch,
Yeah, me too. I think of like an arch too. That's what I'm thinking in my head. So
I don't understand how they could say mushrooms.
Okay.
All right. Then there's sporadic reports of crop circles, but this was interesting. I always thought crop circles were started in England, but actually the first sighting that got the crop circles going was in 1966, which was a very good year, in Australia. So that was the first modern crop circle.
So there were no crop circles reported in from the 16th century up until 1966?
Well, I find that hard to believe. The last person I told you about, the naturalist, that was in 1686. And then, let's see, there's some other reports in the 60s, but nothing really impacted, I guess, anything.
Nothing really influential.
Right. Most of the crop circles back then were fairly basic, basic circle, ranging anywhere from, 20 feet to maybe 100 feet in diameter. Okay. There's nothing really elaborate in the 60s. But then as you get into the 70s, 80s, and closer to where we are now, the patterns became more complicated.
Okay.
So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so the pattern in 1966 in Australia wasn't like the complex patterns that we saw like in the 90s and in the 80s, right?
No, it was just a simple circle.
Just a simple circle. Okay. Proceed.
And then the other, in the 70s, they started to get, well, let's push that back a little bit. To the 80s, they started to get more complicated. All right. Some people then started to come out and say that they were a hoax. There was two gentlemen who claimed to use boards hooked together, so they would string a rope over his board from end to end so they could make something to stomp down.
I've seen that. I've actually saw like a was like a documentary,
right,
on one of those channels where they were showing how some crop circles could be made, right?
And I like the way you say some, because, hey, granted, yeah, they might have gone out there and made some, but there are thousands and thousands of reports of crop circles so the number I will round off, throw this number, 10,000 reported crop circles in 50 countries.
Say that
so
again.
These two old dudes either get around a lot or they're not all fakes.
Say that number again.
10,000 reports in 50 countries.
Of crop circles.
And those are only the ones that are reported. Who knows how many aren't being reported?
Right.
Okay? So they claim to have made fakes. Yeah, it happens. But there are a few scientific studies into crop circles. There are not a lot, because we've talked about this before. A scientist isn't going to want to tie his name to a paranormal phenomenon like crop circles. It's just bad for your career.
Okay.
So, I lost my train of thought. So these two scientific studies have found when they take samples of inside the crops, the stalks they're not, okay, when you think of something like you break something, there's a clean break point. Okay. In the crop circles, when they look at these stalks or grains, there's no clean break. They're actually just kind of bent over. Okay. And then when you looked at them under a microscope, there's a joint that's between each section of these plant stalks that are growing. And in those joints, there's a little bit of moisture. And they found that those pockets of moisture have been heated so quickly to such a high temperature that they'll blow those joints out. So you have evidence of them not being broken, like under a board. Plus you have the evidence of extreme heat at a quick time, in a quick amount of time, that will burst these pockets of moisture. And they can take magnetic measurements in these formations, and they can pick up magnetic fields in some of them, where you're not picking those up in these fakes or hoaxes.
Okay.
So there is evidence, and like we talked about this before, evidence is in the eye of the beholder. But in my opinion, there is evidence to support that these crop circles they're not coming from people, because they're just too complicated in their design and then all the other factors that are with it.
So have they ever said, like you said, like the designs of the crop circles have gotten more complex? Have they ever been able to say what the designs are? Are they some type of what am I trying to say?
Well, geometric. There are very complex geometric formulas in these crop circles. There's very complex mathematics behind these crop circles. Okay, so imagine this. You'd have to be an excellent mathematician to begin with, okay, to formulate this pattern. Okay, so then you're going to go out and you're going to take these boards and you're going to go out into this field and do this complex formation or circle or whatever. I mean, does that sound legit? Like you have these PhDs in math running around making all these crop circles?
Yeah, but don't these crop circles literally appear overnight?
Exactly.
And wouldn't it take you longer than, 8 hours or 12 hours to make this thing?
Exactly. That's the thing. These things are so complicated. They're so complex in their design, and they happen overnight. And in some cases, farmers have, seen their field, nothing's in it, gone away. A few hours later, they come back, and then there's this complex crop circle done in their field. There's no evidence of anyone going in the field or leaving the field. The farmer hasn't seen or heard, helicopters or anything like that. But yet here's this design. And like you said, it would take someone hours and hours, maybe 12, depending on how complex it is, to do this stuff.
And then how could they do it like at night, right? How do you see what you're doing and get everything so perfectly straight?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And like I said, there are some fakes, but go ahead, Kel, sorry.
So James, have you ever did you see any research on the phenomenon between crop circles and other strange things that happen in the same area as the crop circles?
And that's a good question, Kelly. And it's funny that there are UFO sightings, before or after the appearance of these circles.
Anything else like mutilations or anything like that? I think I had saw something once where I don't know if that was that a crop circle? I can't remember. I just thought if there's any other type of other phenomenon that happens when these crop circles appear. And then my other question is, how long do they stay, right? Or do the farmers are the ones that just make their crop go back to normal? Or do they say like how they get rid of them?
No, that's a good question. And it actually did say, and it seems to be, and this is kind of, okay, you got to take this in context, okay? These farmers, they're losing money when their crops are damaged, okay? Some of these farmers they'll just plow the field under, plow it over, whatever they call it, and just call it that. But then the patterns sometimes come back. So they'll grow. So there's something going on with the genetics of the soil or the seed or whatever that creates that, the patterns keep coming back even 2 or 3 years after. Some of these farmers, they're losing money. So they'll turn it into a tourist attraction.
Right.
And then that leads into, well, it must have been a hoax. He's charging money to see it. Well, no, he's probably trying to make the best of it because he's losing money.
If he's a farmer and that's the way he makes his money,
right.
Yes, he is losing money.
So,
I never knew that. I never knew that they would it would grow back in the same pattern.
Yeah, not always. It seems like there's only a few. Well, out of the 10,000 or so reports, there's a few. Maybe less than 100 I could see.
Now, did you have like anything saying like the most recent crop sighting? When was the last? So I haven't heard about a crop circle for a while. For a while there, they were kind of popular, right? And then
right.
you don't really hear about them anymore. So when was the last time? Did you do any research to find out like the most recent sighting or report of a crop circle?
Well, you could probably find reports now, but in the research that I had and the information I pulled up, it's kind of old. The last report was in 2002, and I find that hard to believe that that's the last report. But I didn't go into detail about time because I figured we could always do a whole show about crop circles, and then we could really get into the minute details.
Crop circles is actually one of those things that I think would be done better if it was visual, right?
Right.
So you can so you can actually see the patterns and kind of get an idea for the size of these things, especially if you're somebody who's not really familiar with crop circles, right? So
exactly, and that's a good point, Kelly, because I wish I could, show our listeners some of the pictures I come across in my research, and I encourage them to go look for these because they're incredible. And then, I mean, just the sheer visual of it puts it in perspective. Like you say, some people don't realize how huge these things are, right, and how complex they are. And then I'm going to tell you that, a team of even 10 people did that overnight with no one seeing them.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like not being seen, no trace of where they entered or where they exited. Right, there'd have unless they're getting airlifted out of there, it's kind of hard to see where they would actually leave the pattern once they made it. Right? How do you get out of this circle that you just made without leaving a trail?
Right, and there's like I said, there's no helicopter reports or anything like that. And just to be safe, I did a little kind of side search on this subject, and there is a phenomenon that happens that makes a circle pattern in ice flows. So what happens in the winter is you get a flow of water, you'll get a freeze, and then a current coming around under it, maybe a little warmer, and it causes a circle disc of ice in this river, or it can be, in a bay of a lake or something like that. It's pretty interesting. So I thought I'd kind of, see if there's anything else that might cause these crop circles. So there is a phenomenon that causes things like that in the water. I also looked into if maybe we call them dust devils, dirt devils, little dust storms, little teeny tornadoes, whatever. I thought maybe that might cause some of them. The only problem with that is, how's this tornado going to create this extremely complex pattern? There's one I found that actually had a coded message. We had sent out a message through, out in the airwaves the way we do, through out in space, and they responded. And if you go down through the pattern, it showed like our position or the message we sent out, had the position of our planet in our solar system, information like that coded mathematically that they sent out. A crop circle appeared that was in the same form, and it had a planet represented in their system, and you go down and it had like a DNA helix and stuff. That's interesting, and that's something you have to see visually.
Yeah, that would be something that you would definitely want to see. I mean, I think crop circles are interesting, so I think if we decide to dive into crop circles in the future, that would be when we would actually go visual with the podcast. And one day, I believe that we will. It ain't going to be today, but
not today.
So something to think about for the future. Yeah, definitely.
Right. So it's really interesting when you delve into it. I just this is a hard one to talk about on the radio just because it's so visual.
Well, and guess what, James? We're not on the radio.
On air. Sorry.
We're not even. That's funny.
I guess I'm looking ahead of myself. My bad.
Either you're looking ahead of yourself or you are dating yourself. So one of the other. That's funny. Yeah, we're actually. This is a podcast, dude.
I am dating myself.
And it's something that we record. James, anything else on crop circles?
No, that's just a quick gist. Like I said, we can always do an hour show on this in season 2. It's just wild. It's just some crazy shit. I encourage our listeners go and look at some of these crop circles and tell me what you think.
Yeah, it is crazy. I think on when we do some social media posts, we can actually find some pictures of some crop circles and post on our social media. Definitely, we can do
I
that.
never even thought about that. Yeah, I will. I'll put some on our Facebook page.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else on crop circles?
I think that's good for now.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break here and pay some bills, and we'll be right back. If you haven't heard about Anchor, let me tell you, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free, and free's always good. There's these really great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And then Anchor will take your podcast and distribute it for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple's Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need in one place to make a podcast. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's everything you need to make a podcast. All right. We are back, and I am going to talk about crazy shit that falls out of the sky, which is fascinating to me because there's a lot of crazy shit that falls out of the sky, and I think I'll go over like 10 things. Anyway, crazy shit that falls out of the sky is brought to you by Bright-Headed Publishing. Bright-Headed Publishing LLC is a small publishing firm helping those people who want to become published authors reach their dream. They actually are my publisher. I have now published 2 books with them. The first one is You Sound White, which came out a couple of months ago. The second one just dropped last week. It's called Wait for It, and it's WEIGHT, like your weight. Wait for It. And those both are available on Amazon, print, and ebook, and Barnes and Noble. And go get it. Their Instagram is at BHPLCC, and their Facebook is Bright-Headed Publishing LLC. And you can also email them. They wanted me to put out their email address, which is brightheadedpublishing@gmail.com. So, crazy shit that falls out of the sky. You know, James, when I started doing my research on this, I just never knew that so much stuff fell out of the sky. So, some of the things that I thought were interesting that have fallen out of the sky, the first one I'll go over are fish. So, fish is not as, although very bizarre in nature, it's not uncommon. It's not as uncommon as you think.
Right.
And they say that there are perfect scientific explanations for, fish dropping out of the sky. They say, like in coastal areas, water spouts which are like tornadoes, can actually suck things out of lakes and oceans, carry them a distance, and then drop them like rain. And so that's where they say why fish have literally dropped out of the sky. And it has been documented as recently as 2017, and that it's been documented anywhere from India, Sri Lanka, all the way to Australia, as far as Mexico. So, and sometimes, this is the good thing, sometimes when these fish drop out of the sky, they're actually edible. You can eat them.
Right on.
Yeah, so that's just one of the crazy things that fall out of the sky. So there's a town there's a small village in Honduras, a Honduran village. It's called Yoro, and they celebrate Rain of Fish at least once a year.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're edible.
Now, where is this town? Is it located close to a water source, a water body?
It's all I could find. It was a small Honduran village of Yoro, Yoro, and they celebrate the rain of fish at least once a year.
Huh.
So It's, I would imagine they're somewhat inland, because a lot of times these water spouts, it says in my research, said these water spouts pick up fish and then carry them inland and then drop them. So,
Right.
they do celebrate rain of fish. So fish, number one, first thing, crazy thing to fall out of the sky. Number two, frogs. They also say frogs can fall victims to water spouts, although I don't know how if the water spout is just picking up like a gang of frogs, right? Because the only thing that's fallen from the sky is frogs.
No, it's not like 10 or 20 frogs, right? It's quite a bit, right?
Yeah, so in what I could find, there are reports of frogs coming from the sky in both ancient and modern times, right? In ancient Greek, Herlides wrote about that it rained frogs from the sky, that the houses and the roads were full of them. That's what he wrote. It's a lot of frogs.
God, yeah.
And then in 2005, now I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but it's a town in Serbia, Odzaka, Odzaki. It's in Serbia. Saw thousands of tiny frogs fall from passing storm clouds. Sometimes the length of the fall will kill them, right? Because they've fallen from such a distance that they'll just be like splat, right? And other times when they've fallen, they're able to hop around and just hop away. So in Serbia, for instance, when those frogs fell in Serbia, the villagers reported that the frogs simply hopped away and looked for water. That's crazy, huh?
That is crazy.
So, frogs. Number two, things that can fall out of the sky. Number three, iguanas. And I know that so the iguanas was actually interesting. And I had read a couple of different reports on some frozen iguanas, right? I think that
frozen iguanas. So that means they were picked up live. They must have been taken high enough to freeze them and dropped.
Yeah, so they say that they may have not fallen victim to water spouts. Okay, so this phenomenon is even more bizarre, because in southern Florida, which is warm, right? The brutal bomb cyclone that hit in the winter of 2018 brought a side effect, and that was an iguana rain. The temperatures dropped so low that their bodies shut down while alive, and they literally fell, not from the sky, but they fell from branches and trees out of the trees.
Just wherever they were?
Wherever they were, because it got so cold that they literally were just frozen iguanas not from the sky, but from the trees. I should prep.
And that was only, a couple of years ago, so that's crazy.
2018, yes. There's also reports of, so I'm on my count. Number three, iguanas. Third thing that has fallen, technically not from the sky, but, we'll call it good. It was crazy. Okay, golf balls. So,
golf balls?
Yep, golf balls.
Well, I should be surprised, because I've rained some golf balls from the sky myself.
So, news reports recounts dozens of those falling from the skies in Punta Gorda, Florida in 1969. Even weirder is that there were no golf courses missing any balls. The reason why it was never really confirmed is that most experts thought that it might have been a water spout that scooped up a bunch of golf balls and then just dropped them in this area. But they said that a bunch of golf balls dozens fell from the sky in 1969.
That is crazy.
So golf balls. All right, that is number 4. Number 5, which just creeps me out, that's fallen from the sky, spiders.
Spiders, okay.
Yes. So, ooh, that just creeps me out. Spiders falling from the sky. So, where do you think this happened?
Australia.
Oh my God, you are good. Yes. And that was in 2015 in Australia. And then just more recently in 2019 in Brazil. Right? So they say that this is not from, them being like yanked from like in a water spout or a storm or anything, but they say that spider rains result from a process called ballooning where
like in Charlotte's Web.
Right, where the spiders produce filaments to launch themselves into the air, and they do this in an attempt to catch an air current, and travel to a new location, which is something that they do fairly often. Yes, just like in Charlotte's Web. And you know what? That's exactly what I thought as well, right?
See, that's why we're who we are.
So it is not uncommon. But what is uncommon, so that's not uncommon, but what is uncommon when you get a very large amount of spiders that are all doing this at the same time. Hence spider rain, which happened in 2015 in Australia and 2019 in Brazil. So they didn't technically fall from the sky, but just the fact that there were so many of them
right
all at once is creepy as hell. Right? Could you imagine? They're all over. Oh, okay. Woo, moving on. Don't like that. Okay. Can you guess what the next thing that fell out of the sky was?
Let's see. I've heard of meat falling out of the sky,
but that's not the next one.
All right, what's the next one?
Coffee additives.
Coffee additives.
In 1969. A lot of shit went down in 69, huh? So yeah, in 1969, a South Carolina factory producing non-dairy creamer was called Cremora was struggling with their air vents malfunctioning. The vents got clogged and the powder leaked out into the air, and it mixed with the falling rain and fell as a gloppy mess in Chester, South Carolina.
See, now I would have been outside with a cup of coffee.
But you wouldn't have known it was creamer. So this creamer,
would it smell like French vanilla?
I didn't say, but when it mixed with the rain, it came out like glop. So think about like when creamer is like half solid and half cream before it dissolves in your coffee. Clumps of it, that's what fell out of the sky.
What?
Right?
Just stirred up.
And the company had to pay a fine of $4,000. Let's see. And they had to pay a fine of $4,000, allowing their product to be released from the plant, but not until more than 20 years. So I don't even know if in 1991. So I think they had to they couldn't release the product from the plant. They said for 20 years until 1991. I don't even know if Cremora is still in business.
Well, that doesn't sound like a good creamer. Cremora, that sounds like cremator, like you're going to go get cremated or something. Or like an evil villain. Oh, sorry. So
you're fine. On our countdown, I think I lost count. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 7, James, as you were right, is meat. So yes, meat has fallen out of the sky. It's the meat rain. Where did this happen?
I know it happened in the U.S. I want to say in like Kansas, Missouri. I don't know. Texas, maybe?
Look at you. So it seemed that in Olympian Springs in Kentucky in 1876, 2 men reported that the rain tasted like mutton or venison, and they said that it actually tasted like dry flakes of meat, right? And although it was never proven, they did say that they thought that maybe they tried to say that it was maybe, this is even grosser, vulture droppings.
Oh.
or maybe a vulture dropping its last meal or disgorging its last meal, but they couldn't tell you like where the meat came from.
And that's funny. That's not the story I was familiar with. The one I was familiar with is it was a woman that it rained on her farm, and then she went and told her neighbors. And when they came back, they found her farmhouse, covered with this meat, and then they said it was edible.
Ew.
Yeah, it was something like you said, like they said it was venison or something. But it's like, where does all this stuff come from?
Would you eat meat that fell out of the sky?
Hell no.
Yeah, me neither. All right, next on the list is money.
Money?
It has rained money as recently as 2015. Not like that, James. I mean, yeah, you can make it rain.
Make it rain.
You can make it rain, but that's not what I'm thinking, all right? In 2015, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of United Arab Emirates currency was showered all over Kuwait City.
Hundreds of thousands?
In 2015, yep. In Serbia, a plane carrying gold diamonds spilled cargo over the airport runway in 2018. Not really out of the sky, but could you imagine some diamonds spilling all over the runway? And in Indianapolis, they had a similar experience where an electrician, this is in 2017 in Indianapolis, an electrician noticed about around $200 worth of bills blowing off a roof where he was working. The money was never uncovered where it came from, and they have no idea like where the origin of, same in Kuwait. They don't know where that money came in Kuwait, and they don't know where the money came from in Indianapolis.
Did he get to keep the money?
It did not say. So, do you think he got to keep the money?
Oh, hell no. Someone probably said, no, you owe it to us. Government, state, federal, who knows?
Another one I thought that was interesting is boiled bats.
Boiled bats?
Have you heard this? So this was in January of 2018. Hundreds of heat-stricken bats fell from the trees in Campbelltown, Australia, after a heat wave launched temperatures up to 111 degrees.
Damn.
The bats just basically boiled, right? There are about 200 bats they found, most of them babies, that it got so hot that they just boiled. And boiled their brains as well, they said. So they didn't technically fall out of the sky, but they did like fall out of the trees.
Wow. I'm kind of disappointed I didn't know that, but I thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. So, and then the last one I have that is rare, not rare, but I thought was just weird, was blood.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so blood falling out of the sky is a weird phenomenon. And so now see, I got different research on this. So they said that Zamora, a city in northwestern Spain, did actually experience real life blood rain. Or it had like they said that the liquid falling from the sky looked a lot like blood, right? Yeah. Now there is right, and there's another place, I believe it was in India, and they had a red rain, and when they tested this red rain, it didn't have DNA, but it was reproducing, it was replicating, right?
And didn't it have red hemoglobin?
It did have red hemoglobin in it, yes. It's kind of really funny, but then they say, in my other research I found, where they said it turns out that red rain is totally natural, right? The red coloring comes from a type of microalgae plant that produces a red pigment when it's in signs of stress. And scientists believe that its spores of this plant got caught in rain clouds.
See, now I remember when this all went down. Okay. And I remember it. I mean, India is a big place. And you say it fell over a large part of India for a long time.
Yeah, this is not the same one, but I'm saying that in the case of this town in Spain, they're saying that they thought it was this microalgae plant, but they never were able to prove that, right? And so they said that it wasn't blood in that place. The other one, what we're talking about in India, it did rain for like a long time, right? It did not stop.
Like several weeks, huh?
Yeah, several weeks it rained. And I wish I would have done my research more on that, but I did not. But that was the one that I actually didn't read about. I actually saw one of those unexplained shows that you were telling me about, where they talked about this blood rain. And then, of course, they have these, weird explanations, like in Spain. They have this explanation, but that in itself is just a theory, right? They were never able to prove that that's exactly how the rain turns red.
Right. And we could do an hour just on the one incident I should say one incident, the incident in India, because that is some crazy shit. The volume, the length of time, the people that were experiencing this stuff. And it's funny because it's just barely now coming out. And I remember when it was happening, you read these little news reports here and there. And I was amazed that it wasn't like front page news here, because it's crazy shit.
It is crazy shit. And it's scary shit if blood is literally falling from the sky. Crazy shit. And there's other crazy shit that I didn't even go over, that they've had space debris fall out of the sky. You've had meteors, weird things, meteors and such fall out of the sky. All types of stuff that falls out of the sky. The sky, to me, is just fascinating anyway, right? Because at the end of the day, and this is the funny thing, no matter what, the sky is always blue. We just can't see it when the sun goes down.
And maybe Chicken Little wasn't crazy.
Maybe. But guess what? We still have time. That's all I have for things that fall out of the sky. Moving on, I thought we'd go to random bullshit.
All right, what you got?
Okay, so with everything that's going on with the election, and the votes and all this other type of stuff, it got me to thinking, and I don't know about you, but I don't remember learning about this in school, so I actually had to look it up on what the hell is the Electoral College and exactly how does this thing work, right? Because I really don't remember learning about the Electoral College in school. Do you?
No, they didn't teach us about it, Cal. And in fact, I didn't know anything about it until the one election that happened where the party won, and it was kind of all, the Electoral College voted and the popular vote was, that's when I looked into it and I found out how crazy it was.
Right. So I said I was going to look it up, and then I was going to say random bullshit, the Electoral College explained. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so this is how it works. So when you vote for president, does your vote count? Well, yes and no. So what happens is, back in the day, and I believe it was 1787, at the time in our country, they were trying to decide who should elect president, the people or Congress, right? So
the people.
They came to a compromise and came up with the Electoral College. And each state gets an elector. So what happens is, when you vote for the president, you're really voting for an elector from your state. Each state has a certain number of electors. These electors then vote for president. How many electors does a state get? Well, it depends on the size of your state. Each state gets an elector for each member of Congress from that state. That is one for each member of the state in the House. And it's based on the population. So, for example, California, which is pretty big, they get 55. Wyoming, which is not so big, gets 3. And every state has their number. Do you know how many your state gets?
Well, to be honest, it doesn't matter because they're usually going to vote Republican.
Okay. So
sorry.
Anyway, the question should have been, no, Kelly.
Oh, sorry. No, Kelly, I don't.
That's okay, because you can always Google it. Play with me, James. Come on, stay with me. Now, who can be an elector? Pretty much anyone who can vote can be an elector. However, most people who are electors have been loyal to, their party for a long time, right? So me and you probably wouldn't be able to be electors, right?
That's not true. I've been very loyal to my party.
But
I have a question. How do I become an elector? I just say, hey, I call up my party and say I want to become an elector?
Sure, why not? I don't know. I didn't look up that. I just want to find out what it was. So do electors have to vote in a certain way? It depends on the state that you live in. Some states have laws requiring that electors have to vote the way that the people voted, right?
Which is, I think, the right thing to do.
So most time the electors vote as expected. But in rare cases, they have changed their vote and voted for a different candidate than the people who voted.
So you mean they elected someone who the people didn't want to be elected?
Yes. So,
wow.
So in most states, it's all or nothing, meaning whoever wins in that state, they get all the electoral votes. For example, whoever wins California, Democrat or Republican, that candidate gets all 55 of their electoral votes. However, in some states, like Maine and Nebraska, they split their electors between candidates. So, why do we have the Electoral College? Well, it does have pros and cons, people, and I'll tell you what they are. People who are for the Electoral College believe that it protects the states' rights, right? Under the United States, the United States is a republic of states, and each state should be able to apportion its electorates as it sees fits, right? And the Electoral College keeps high population states and regions from deciding the presidency, right?
But that's not true.
Well, I'm telling you what the for are, and I'm going to tell you what the cons are.
Okay,
I'm not saying if it's true or false. Remember, James, and say it with me. We are not a political
I know, and I'm
we are only
go ahead.
We are only talking about. I'm only telling you what it is.
We're trying to be that neutral, that white neutral politic, like white magic. No, what was that?
That's gray magic.
Gray. So we're gray politics. My bad.
Only informing you of what it is, right?
Okay, sorry.
Now, against the Electoral College, the cons are: it's possible that the winner may not get the popular vote, and that's happened 4 times. Okay, sometimes votes count more than others. So like in 2012, there were less than 200,000 people per electoral vote in Wyoming, but more than 700,000 people per electoral vote in Texas. And it makes it so that elections tend to focus on swing states such as Florida and Ohio, and as we learned today, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and there was one more.
Good job, you guys.
Thank you. Anyway, interesting facts. There are 538 electoral votes. District of Columbia does have 3. And how many do you need to be president?
270.
270. And honestly, the official vote doesn't even happen until Congress has their joint sessions. Then at that time, they are officially counted and sworn in as being election done. That, my friends, is what the Electoral College is. Now, whether you agree or disagree is irrelevant because I'm just bringing you the information because I wanted to know what it was. Now, could we get into all the other stuff? Yeah, we could. Are we going to do it? Say it, James.
Yes. No,
we're not going to do it.
Sorry.
So anyway,
I want to.
That's what I wanted to just go over with random bullshit. And I don't want you to go down a rabbit hole on this political shit, James, because we're not doing it. We said at the beginning we would not do it. And I know
I'm trying, and I'm being good. I haven't said anything too much, really.
Okay, so I mean,
just go to my Facebook page.
That's all I have for random bullshit. Unless, of course, you have something that you would like to add.
No, not anything that's not political. No, but okay. Putting politics aside, we should really look at the fact that we're going to have a female vice president. And it's a minority. That's a cool thing.
You know what? It is a cool thing. And I say this because other countries have had women lead them.
Oh.
And,
And lead them well.
Yeah, and lead them well. I mean, I think women bring a whole nother perspective to the table, and that it should, we should, as people, we should want to have all perspectives brought to the table.
You would think.
We could get into like a utopian world, which we've had conversations, about where you wouldn't even need this type of government, right? Because it'd be like utopia. It'd be like whatever, right? We'd all be just one happy planet.
Yeah, but you would still need some governing. I don't know if you'd call it a government, but I think you'd still need some kind of guideline, someone to a voice for the people.
Well,
what if it was utopia and we had all we wanted, but hey, people are people and they always want something more, something different.
That is true. And I don't know, how many people that listen to us, were for or against whatever candidate you were. But the thing that I just want to say at the end of the day, look how many people for the first time voted. And that says something, because that says that the majority of the people were ready for some type of change and didn't want more of the same. Now, I don't know what that change will be, and I hope that it will be good for everybody, and I hope that we don't have a lot of unrest, and I do hope that things get better. I mean, I like to think that people are basically good inside. I do like to think the best of people.
Well, and then I'm the yin to your yang. I kind of think people are assholes.
Oh, James.
I mean, not all people. I mean, there are good people out there, but just the fact that this last election was so close kind of scares me. And you could edit that out if you want to.
You know what? I will not, because you are entitled. It scared a lot of people, good, bad, or indifferent, James. When I say we're not getting political, we're not going to go down that political rabbit hole. As a matter of fact, guess what? We're out of time, so we couldn't go there
if we wanted to.
So, at any rate, thank you again for listening. Coming up next week, we are hoping to have Rue come back, and she sees spirits and ghosts, and so we'll be putting things out on social media. If she, for some reason, has a conflict and cannot come back, then we will have something else more fantastic for you next week, because we just don't know what it is at this time, because we don't know yet.
Because we're just kind of flying by the seam.
We are. At any rate... Okay. You're absolutely right. At any rate, thank you so much for listening. As always, James, you have been listening to That's Some Crazy Shit. My name is Kelly.
And I'm Baez, James Baez. Keep your minds open, people.
All right, until next time.
Ciao.